This is the Last Transmission podcast, biblical prophecies, global cataclysms, a world consumed by fire. Sounds like ancient allegory, until you compare it to modern reality. In today's episode, we connect first-century visions with the terrifying power of nuclear weapons. The Bible warns of skies splitting like scrolls, mountains moving, and a third of the earth burning. What if these aren't just acts of nature, but man-made horrors? What if the day of the Lord begins with mankind unleashing its own destruction? This isn't speculation, it's prophecy, and it's closer than you think.
Welcome, listeners, to the Last Transmission podcast.
We're here to look into some, often perplexing signals from ancient texts.
Trying to find a bit of clarity in, let's face it, pretty chaotic times.
That's the goal.
Today, we're venturing into a really profound vision. It's from the book of Revelation, the breaking of the sixth seal.
Ah, yes, Revelation chapter 6, a passage that sparked centuries of awe, maybe some fear, definitely a lot of mystery.
Exactly. And it's often seen purely as, natural disasters, earthquakes, the sun going dark, stars falling, standard apocalyptic stuff, maybe.
That's the common view. But we're asking today, what if it's something else?
What if it's a description from someone in the first century of something devastatingly modern?
Like all-out war.
Right.
And maybe even specifically the imagery of a nuclear blast.
Precisely. It sounds maybe a bit out there at first, but we want to unpack this possibility together.
Yeah, looking at how someone back then might describe horrors we unfortunately can conceive of now.
It might just reshape how you understand this prophecy and why it could still be incredibly relevant.
It's a fascinating challenge, isn't it? Trying to bridge that gap between the prophet's world and the potential future they saw.
Definitely. I mean, imagine John the Apostle. He's shown these visions, events, completely outside his technological reality.
Right. He has to use the words, the concepts, the images he knows to describe something.
Yeah.
Well, utterly alien to his time.
It's like trying to explain a smartphone to a Roman centurion. You'd use analogies, right? Maybe a talking scroll or a magic mirror.
Exactly. So it stands to reason he'd use the most powerful, world-shattering imagery available to him.
Okay, so let's get specific. Let's set the scene from Revelation chapter 6, verses 12 through 14. How does it start?
It begins. And I looked when he broke the sixth seal, and there was a great earthquake.
Okay, a great earthquake. That's pretty clear.
And the sun became black as sackcloth made of hair, and the whole moon became like blood.
Whoa. Okay, sun black, moon like blood. Very dramatic imagery.
Extremely. And the stars of the sky fell to the earth, as a fig tree casts its unripe figs when shaken by a great wind.
Stars falling like figs. It really paints a picture of total cosmic breakdown, doesn't it? Like the sky itself is collapsing.
It absolutely does.
Real.
And if you stop there, it sounds like a series of maybe unprecedented natural calamities.
It continues, right? Verse 14 is where this nuclear interpretation really starts to gain some traction.
Yes. Verse 14 says, and the sky was split apart like a scroll when it is rolled up.
Like a scroll being rolled up. Okay, that's a strange visual.
It is. And every mountain and island were moved out of their places.
Every mountain and island moved. Wow.
So let's focus on that sky split apart like a scroll when it is rolled up. How could that relate to a nuclear blast?
Well, thinking about the sheer force, the vacuum effect, maybe?
That's exactly the idea. Imagine a massive thermonuclear explosion. The initial blast pushes everything outwards violently.
Creates a void, a vacuum.
Precisely. Then the surrounding air rushes back in with incredible force. Creates massive shockwaves, atmospheric distortion.
So to someone like John, without our physics knowledge, it might look like the sky itself is peeling back or rolling away.
It's a plausible analogy, isn't it? Trying to describe that immense, violent atmospheric displacement. Using first-century terms, a scroll rolling up captures that sense of the heavens themselves being dramatically altered.
It's a powerful image. So the idea is John saw something real, something future, and used the best comparison he could find.
That's the core of this interpretation. He's articulating the unthinkable, using the thinkable language of his day.
Okay, let's move to the stars falling like figs part. How does that fit the nuclear war picture? Traditional view is meteors, maybe.
Yeah, meteors or asteroids. But think about modern warfare. What comes down from the sky, often looking like fiery streaks.
Missiles, Specifically, ICBMs re-entering the atmosphere.
Exactly. Intercontinental ballistic missiles. They travel through space and then plummet back down, their warheads glowing from the friction.
So, stars falling to Earth could be John's description of multiple missile impacts, fiery objects raining down.
It's a strong parallel. The Greek word asteres is pretty broad. It can mean any luminous body. It doesn't have to mean literal stars light years away.
It could be things in the sky, appearing like stars as they fall.
Precisely. And the image of figs being shaken loose suggests a sudden, widespread shower of these objects, multiple impacts.
That fits the chilling reality of potential nuclear conflict. Not just one bomb, but many.
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay, what about the sun turning black and the moon red? You mentioned atmospheric effects earlier.
Right, this isn't just a quick eclipse. Black as sackcloth suggests a deep, pervasive darkness. Moon-like blood implies a reddish, obscured light.
So, nuclear winter.
That's the connection many draw. Multiple nuclear detonations would throw unbelievable amounts of dust, soot, smoke, and debris high into the atmosphere.
Enough to block out sunlight globally, or at least regionally, for a long time.
Potentially, yes. Creating a kind of planetary shroud. It would drastically lower temperatures and change the appearance of the sun and moon through the haze.
Other prophets mentioned similar things, didn't they? Joel, Isaiah.
They did. Joel chapter 2 talks about the sun turning dark and the moon to blood before the day of the Lord. Isaiah 13 uses similar language for Babylon's judgment. It suggests a recurring theme of profound atmospheric disturbance linked to major judgment events.
And the scale here in Revelation seems global.
It certainly reads that way.
Then there's the great earthquake, and every mountain and island moved. That sounds like hyperbole, maybe? Or is there a physical possibility?
Well, we know massive earthquakes can shift land masses slightly. The 2010 Chile quake moved cities by feet.
But this sounds much bigger. Mountains and islands visibly moved.
It does. And while it could be symbolic, consider the seismic impact of numerous simultaneous nuclear blasts.
Could they trigger massive earthquakes? Or even shift tectonic plates?
The energy release would be immense, triggering global seismic activity, massive tsunamis that could alter coastlines, perhaps even causing visible shifts in terrain through combined shock waves and earth movement. It's within the realm of theoretical possibility for widespread nuclear detonations.
So not just a metaphor for societal collapse, but maybe literal geological upheaval on an unimaginable scale.
That's the interpretation, yes. A physical reshaping of the planet.
Wow. Okay, let's look at some other prophecies that seem to echo these kinds of effects. Damascus.
Right. Isaiah 17 and Jeremiah 49 both speak of Damascus being utterly destroyed almost instantaneously. Isaiah says, "At evening time, behold, there is terror. Before morning, they are no more."
To wipe out one of the world's oldest cities overnight?
In today's world, what could do that so quickly and completely? A nuclear weapon is the most plausible, if horrifying, answer. It implies a sudden, overwhelming destruction.
And then there's that really graphic description in Zechariah, chapter 14, verse 12.
Ah, yes. It's gruesome. It talks about people's flesh rotting while they stand, eyes rotting in sockets, tongues rotting in mouths.
Which sounds disturbingly like
acute radiation sickness and extreme thermal burns. The intense heat vaporizing tissue. The radiation causing rapid decay. It's a chillingly accurate picture of the immediate effects on humans near a nuclear blast.
Even mentions animals suffering the same plague in verse 15.
Which fits, as radiation affects all biological life. It's not metaphorical. It describes specific, horrific physical consequences.
And Revelation itself continues with similar themes later, right? The trumpet judgments.
Yes, Revelation chapter 8, verse 7 describes hail and fire mixed with blood, thrown to earth, burning up a third of the earth, a third of the trees, all green grass.
A third of the planet scorched. That's beyond conventional war.
Absolutely. The scale points to something like widespread nuclear firestorms. The hail and fire mixed with blood could be fallout, burning debris, ash, a prophet's way of describing the terrifying aftermath.
And later the sores and the sun scorching people.
Revelation 16, verse 2 talks of foul and loathsome sores, a perfect description of radiation poisoning lesions.
And verse 8 says the sun was given power to scorch men with fire.
Which could point to damage to the atmosphere, like the ozone layer being depleted after initial widespread burning, leading to intense UV radiation burns. It all lines up disturbingly well with the predicted aftermath of nuclear war.
It's sobering how many details seem to fit. And the threat isn't just ancient history or theory. We live with thousands of these weapons right now.
We do. Thousands of warheads, many ready to launch on short notice. It's a precarious existence.
Why hasn't it happened? if the prophecy describes this and the capability exists?
Many believe it's only by divine restraint that we haven't seen full-scale nuclear Armageddon yet. The idea is that God is holding things back for now.
But that restraint, according to prophecy, won't last forever.
No. The text suggests it will eventually be lifted, possibly coinciding with events like the rapture, leading into the tribulation period where these judgments unfold.
And the terror described in the sixth seal, it's universal, right? It affects everyone.
Yes, Revelation 6, verse 15 is very specific. Kings, great men, commanders, rich, strong, slave, free, everyone is hiding in caves and rocks.
Not just ordinary people, but the powerful, the elite. Total panic.
Shows the scale. No one is exempt, no bunker deep enough. They're running from something that transcends all human power and status.
And they know who they're running from. That's key.
Absolutely crucial. Verse 16, they cry to the mountains, "Fall on us and hide us from the face of him who is seated on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb."
They recognize its divine judgment, God the Father and Jesus Christ the Lamb.
There's no mistaking it at that point. All denial is gone. They'd rather be crushed than face divine wrath directly.
Which they ask rhetorically, who can stand?
And the implied answer is terrifying. No one. Not against this.
So this sixth seal isn't just one event. It kicks off the day of the Lord.
Exactly. It's the trigger. That phrase, day of the Lord, appears all over the Old Testament. Isaiah, Joel, Zephaniah always described as a time of unprecedented divine vengeance, darkness, fury. It's the culmination.
And it comes suddenly, like a thief in the night.
That's what 1 Thessalonians 5 says. Unexpectedly, devastatingly. Even people living through the earlier parts of the tribulation won't know the exact moment this hits.
Only the Father knows the day and hour, as Matthew 24 says.
Right. It emphasizes God's sovereignty over the timing and the need for readiness.
Which brings us to that fascinating idea about the half hour of silence in heaven after the seventh seal is opened in Revelation 8.
Yes, the theory that this could represent the flight time of ICBMs roughly 30 minutes from launch to impact.
A silent, terrifying countdown before the next wave of judgments, the trumpets, begin.
It's a chilling modern overlay onto the text, isn't it? That pause, the world holding its breath.
So why? Why such terrible judgment, if God is loving?
The Bible presents judgment as the consequence of cumulative sin. Romans 2 talks about people storing up wrath for themselves. God is patient, but his justice eventually requires a reckoning for generations of global lawlessness, violence, rejection of truth.
It's presented as a just response to overwhelming evil.
Yes, the culmination of his wrath against sin.
And for those who reject God's offer of escape through faith, there's no hiding.
Hebrews 10 is stark. If you deliberately keep sinning after receiving the knowledge of the truth, there's only a terrifying expectation of judgment. Their death wish to the mountains won't save them from facing God.
But there's hope amidst all this darkness.
Immense hope. That's the crucial counterpoint. 1 Thessalonians 5.9 is clear. God has not appointed us believers to wrath, but to obtain salvation through our Lord Jesus Christ.
Like Noah in the ark, believers find refuge in Christ.
Exactly. It's a spiritual refuge, not a physical bunker. Protection from the ultimate judgment, which is eternal.
And this judgment isn't the end goal. It leads somewhere.
It leads to Christ's ultimate victory. Revelation 21 paints a picture of a new heaven and new earth. No more death, sorrow, crying, or pain. God dwelling with his people.
I am making everything new.
That's the final promise. Restoration follows judgment.
So we've looked at the sixth seal, not just as ancient metaphor, but possibly through the lens of modern conflict, even nuclear war. A sobering connection.
It highlights how ancient texts might speak to future realities in ways their original authors couldn't have fully grasped using the imagery available to them.
It's not about fear-mongering, but about clarity, understanding the potential reality behind the symbols.
And understanding the choice presented.
Which leads to our final thought for you. If the world, according to these prophecies, faces a future where even the most powerful desperately seek shelter from an undeniable divine judgment.
Where does your sense of security truly lie today? What foundation are you building your hope on?
Something to consider. Thank you for joining us for this exploration. This has been the Last Transmission Podcast.
Seeking clarity for the times ahead.
You've just heard The Last Transmission. The ancient prophets warned of a day of the Lord, a time of fierce anger, desolation, and a world consumed by fire. Today, we stand on the precipice, holding the very technology that could fulfill those terrifying visions. Don't be deceived by the whispers of peace and safety, while the world stockpiles unthinkable power. Don't ignore the signs of technology escalating towards a global cataclysm. Because when God's restraining hand is lifted, the destruction will come suddenly. Without escape, choose Christ. Be ready. For the judgment foretold may not be a myth, but a man-made reality. Until next time, this was the Last Transmission Podcast.